Здравейте! Добре дошли в канала на Epic Stories, в който ви разказваме всичко актуално и скандално, което се случва в света на шоу-бизнеса и не само. В последното видео ви показахме интервю с Адрия Инглиш, бивша танцьорка от партитата на Пи Диди, която е била пряк свидетел на всичко случващо се. В друго интервю Адрия разкрива още по-скандални неща от въпросните бели партита. Адрия отговаря на въпроса дали е била принудена да спи с президенти и кралски величия на тези партита.
Who were some of those major celebrities that Diddy actually trafficked you to?
Jacob the jeweler. Hey, Jacob. The others are from European countries and of a royalty. Very royal. Very royal.
Like princes, that type of thing?
Definitely a prince.
Whoa.
The opposite of being smooth, if you have smooth arms as opposed to hairy.
Ooh. So we're talking about the one that's newly married to the biracial lady.
That's the only prince. That's the only prince I know.
Okay. Damn, y'all.
Allegedly. It's a few people that are presidential.
A few. So it was more than one president.
Somebody who should have just stepped down and retired and appointed somebody else to the actual power instead of them making them jump through a bunch of circuits and hoops only to not give it to them. You know you had the power to just go ahead and step down and appoint, but you didn't want to do that, right? Allegedly. Not allegedly. That's what you did. You should have stepped down. How you gonna back? Oh wait, I'm saying too much. But how you gonna back a campaign when all you had to do was step down and then appoint and say, hey, it wouldn't have to be no election. You know what I'm saying?
Just to clarify for the audience, it was more than one president that was found on those tapes?
Multiple.
Damn.
Multiple kings and princes from different countries. Dubai. Shout out to Dubai. You got all the hoes in LA up. That's what the hoes out here do. Go to Dubai and get that bag and come out here and spend it. I told y'all game. Why you mad now? Not just LA, all y'all hoes. All the hoes is going to Dubai to get that money. I ain't mad at y'all. That ain't allegedly.
Yeah, there's a lot of celebs that we actually heard, a lot of female celebs that was going to Dubai and getting that Prince money and coming back.
Exactly.
Много се изговори за партитата на Пи Диди, но Адрия Инглиш ни дава много полезна информация какво са представлявали партитата отвътре. Президенти, принцове, хора по високите етажи на властта, певци, музиканти, актьори. Всички са били на партитата на Пи Диди и са се отдавали на разгулни вечери с изобилие от секс, наркотици и перверзия. Истински Содом и Гомор. Следващото интервю е със съдебния психолог Лесли Добсън. Тя има 20 годишен стаж като криминален и съдебен психолог и е работила по различни съдебни дела. Тя споделя опита си и анализира Пи Диди и разкрива скандални неща за записите от партитата на Диди. Ще чуете лично от нея имена на известни личности, които са на записите.
He has a pattern, a history of being very dangerous. We have evidence of it. No bail should be allowed because he will only act on the things he's done in the past. And then the other things I do are in civil litigation. So again, a great example is Sean Combs because it's all over the news, but all these people suing him for sexual assault, that's in civil law, that's not criminal. And so I'll go in and I'll assess the plaintiff, so the person saying they were raped, or I'll go in and assess the defendant saying, no, I didn't do it. And I'll use a lot of psychological batteries to see who's telling the truth. And then I'll tell the jury and I'll explain it to the jury and let them decide. And then at the end of the day, the judge really has the final decision.
So what type of classification would you actually give Diddy? I'm pretty sure you've done an analysis on him before. what type of classification would you give him in terms of his mental capacity and things like that?
Well, we can't diagnose people we haven't met, right? But based on all of the evidence that I've seen and seeing him in action, videos, transcripts, all the collateral information, and then all of the bad behavior he has had since he's been locked up, it's very fitting that he would meet criteria for a psychopath. And so if we're talking about a psychopath, that's an individual who lacks remorse. They're callous. They are very good at lying. They're manipulative. There's that criminal versatility. They're not just going to stick to one crime. They need high levels of stimulation in order to feel any kind of emotion. And then you bring in something that's even more rare. And at least in California, we call it the sexual psychopath. And that's a very unique person. In California, we house psychopaths, sexually violent predators, as patients, not inmates, because technically in California, they lead with mental illness. And they're housed up at Coalinga State Hospital. It just smells like cow manure everywhere, and it's in Northern California. And it is a sight to see.
Now, when you actually saw his apology video, were you seeing a lot of those signs where he was kind of eyes were darting around? Did he not look sincere too much?
If it were sincere, it wouldn't have happened, right? The timing, when the assault was long-winded, it went on for a while. There were several points of aggression and violence. It was a very dynamic, short video, but a long span in that short time for him to do all that he did. And it was very calculated. You could tell neither of them were new to this. But in the apology video, which was timed quite a bit later after he got in trouble, yeah, he didn't look genuine. He had those crocodile tears. I think he had a little bit of a runny nose, but still very flat affect, no facial expressions. His eyebrows weren't in line with his jaw movement, and his body was like kind of overacting for somebody who can't act.
So that's the thing. Your eyebrows are being aligned with your mouth. That's the thing.
Yeah, I mean, there needs to, well, not for me because I have too much Botox, but there needs to be like a consistency, there's a normal human affect that matches emotions, that matches language. And when you're there with him, or not with him, but when you're watching that video, you're not feeling the empathy. And, we're not, take away if people believe in spiritual connection, but a lot of the time we feel people's sorrow because we understand their muscle movements. We understand the cracks in their voice, the tone of their voice. They're mirroring what we would consider sadness, regret. That did not come across at all in that video.
Gotcha. And I think a lot of people actually felt that as well after seeing the apology video. They were like, it just didn't come across as sincere at all.
No. And do you remember how long it was after the actual incident?
Well, I don't know. Maybe was it like 2 weeks or so, or?
Well, he got caught, but the incident happened years prior.
Oh yeah, true.
Yeah. Man, he had some time.
He probably would have been better off just pinning something, releasing a statement versus actually doing that video. I don't think that helped him out at all.
No, but again, it's characteristic of a person like that. They're very impulsive. He gets an idea, this is going to win the audience. I'm going to do this, probably against his PR team's advice, and he went ahead and did it. And now things are falling in line with the PR team's advice because they're really running the show. He shouldn't be, and he's still getting away with everything in there.
Right. Running to jail. Few other high-profile psychopaths that you previously worked with. Are there any direct relations that you can see from Sean Combs to the ones that's actually done a lot of crimes, should I say?
Oh, yeah, I think a lot. I think there's, the time span that we know of Sean Combs and him being connected to naughty behavior, or should I just say quite illegal behavior. It's really, around the age of 20, we kind of peak, and maybe around 40, 50, we slow down a bit with psychopathic trends. He really falls in line with the timeline that I'd expect to see. the drug use, the alcohol use, the sex addiction, the people he was around, the people really pumping him up, the team that kept him going, the rule breaking behavior. All of that is very common with inmates I've worked with.
There's allegations that J-Lo may be implicated in some of those tapes that were actually confiscated by Homeland Security. Do you see any mental signs in her as well?
She's an interesting character, and I say character because she really is seen in the media as how people decide to show her. Right? Like, we don't really know any of these people. Like I can say that I've seen her go shopping many times or get a coffee many times in LA. And she carries herself like, don't fuck with me, stay away from me, don't mess with my kids. She's not friendly at all. And that may just be because everybody's always chasing at her. But you are who you surround yourself with. So if you are surrounding yourself with somebody to change your image, for a short time that might work, but then that doesn't always last. And then who you are starts to come back out. So we had this kind of Ben Affleck stint. And I'm curious now who will see her date and who is going to be pulled into her life so that the world doesn't think she's a horrible person.
So you think she's planning like a PR relationship to kind of smooth things over?
Well, I think people of that stature always are. Always. So we really rarely know any famous person, right? They're never, ever what we see. We see what is given to us and what is fed to us. But there is more game, I think, now that there's documentation of her being privy to somebody who's under a federal indictment.
Yeah, and they always say you never want to meet your celebrities that you actually look up to because it can be very disappointing.
It really is. I mean, I think it was like maybe Kevin Costner who pulled his Mercedes out really fast and almost hit my baby stroller.
Damn.
And I thought, okay, like they're just people too, but they're people with a lot of power and money. They have people to clean up every mistake that they make, and they learn over time that they don't have to take responsibility or accountability for their actions. And then if you've got somebody who feeds on that and it just keeps growing and getting worse and they like it, then you have what we see now, criminals.
Absolutely. And I know a lot of people are saying, the allegations that's come out about so many of these celebrities and these musical artists, it makes it really not even enjoyable to, listen to their music or watch their movies or watch their TV shows because we're kind of learning more of the real them behind the facade they put out.
I think I told you I worked for the government for about 20 years. I know I have a lot of Botox. I am 41. But for 20 years, I was kind of behind the scenes. And then I came out onto the other side and started social media and started being on TV shows. And my neighbors who were celebrities, I started to actually work with and see the real parts of them. And some are absolutely brilliant people, brilliant. But the most brilliant people are the writers. They're the producers. They're the ones that cut and edit 25 hours of a celebrity down to 40 minutes. Right? So they are incredible, especially the celebrities that can act and also write and produce and pull these movies and shows together. But it's never just them. There's such a huge team behind them.
Now, in terms of Diddy, now you did mention in a previous interview that you think he may possibly never see trial. Do you still believe that?
Yeah, I do. I think there's a lot more that we're going to learn. And I say that because we've learned so much in such a short period of time. And the more that he begins to flail and fear for his inability to get out, I think the more secrets will be told. And with that fear of that, you're also going to have other people associated with him starting to tell their secrets. And so that means he could get more charges. They could be more severe. And I mean, what if we see a solicitation for murder and we actually have proof? Right? I mean, there's a lot that could come because the things being thrown around that are associated with him could lead to life sentences, could lead to the death penalty.
Now, do you think it's possible that he may potentially unalive himself like Epstein?
I really don't think Epstein did. But, you know, so when somebody is a high profile person in a prison or a state hospital or a jail, they have to have 10-minute checks, 2-minute checks. It depends on what the warden says. But there's always going to be somebody with eyes on, and then there's going to be a second person coming in to make sure that person's okay. And then there's going to be a mental health wellness team that's going to be rounding quite frequently on that person. So the layers of accountability make it really unlikely that somebody is going to, one, figure out how to end their life, somebody who's never tried before. How do you really do that if you haven't tried a lot and been taught? And then it takes a long time, especially to suffocate yourself. It takes a long time to wedge something in a door, to use your sheet, or they're in these tear-proof clothing where you couldn't even really use it to asphyxiate yourself. So I don't think Epstein did it. I would imagine it was planned and people looked the other way. I don't know why that hasn't happened yet for Sean Combs, but maybe it's because we actually have the right side of the law working inside that prison right now.
More corrupt when Epstein was in there versus Sean Combs?
Yeah, and that might just be speculation on my part, but Epstein was tied to people, so clearly tied to people that were in higher levels of authority and politics, and that could really hurt the American government. And I don't doubt that Combs is tied in some way in that fashion, but there was a more direct threat to more powerful people when it came to Epstein.
Well, I think, with Diddy having so much information, and like you said, if he does start talking and implicating like some of the higher ups, you think that may potentially happen to him as well? Or is there a bigger microscope on Diddy at this time?
No, I think it could definitely happen. I think we underestimate how common that is. I don't think people, and I'm happy that most people don't know what the inside of a prison is like, or a state hospital or a jail, right? They don't understand what a custody officer is like. It's just a person. And it may be a well-trained person, but it may also be a person who listens to Sean Combs's music, who's really loved him for a long time, who will do things to help him, who will give him other people's cell phone codes to call people, give him more paper, pencils, pens. But then you've got the opposite. You have people who really want to be warriors and defend the victims, and they might have access to him as well. So I think it's only going to get more intense. What I would imagine is he's probably going to be moved to a different facility. I think he needs to be isolated more. If he's already been shown to be tampering with witnesses or intimidating others through using other inmates' cell phones and codes, his accessibility is already too extreme. And there are prisons that would have him isolated and more secure than the one he's in. But I do love the one he's in because it's nasty and he deserves the complete opposite of the life he was living.
Absolutely. Absolutely. That was a big shock. And I was just thinking like, with him going through those types of conditions and him having everything stripped away from him, I could possibly see him trying to at least attempt to take his life. Something along those lines, but I may not be sure.
It just, and I have limited experience compared to a lot of doctors in this world, and officers and wardens and everything. Psychopathic people, if he is one, they love themselves too much. There's too much. Like, he really probably thinks it's going to be okay. He just has to figure out a way. So why would you take your life when there's so much havoc to wreak on the world?
That's why he keeps attempting those bail requests, huh?
Right. And people are twisted up in it and backing him.
Now, what could this mean for the U.S., for fans, if Snoop Dogg is actually implicated? Because I know there's been talk about him being on some actual videos. What do you think that would look like if he was brought up in the cases as well?
Personally, it wouldn't shock me. I think that Snoop's PR team has really made him look good. Just like a trustworthy neighborhood guy. His alliance with Martha Stewart, I mean, they've really painted him out over the past almost 10 years, I'd say, to be a different figure. And as somebody who lived in Long Beach for a long time, I mean, people idolize Snoop. But unfortunately, he is tied in timelines, in videos, and evidence to Sean Combs. And if we just look back at his life, it's not as clean as what we remember or what we see right now in the media.
Right. Yeah, people around our age, man, we remember the old Snoop getting into everything, but it's like, I guess the newer generation, they're seeing him from a different light than like the early
Yeah.
90s. And we saw him, you know, on trial for murder and different things like that. We know the real Snoop.
I mean, we all just logged into Netflix while it was buffering to watch Mike Tyson fight. I mean, he's a registered offender. What do you think his victim was doing? Oh, I'm so glad the guy who raped me gets the world to watch him right now. And then we see his whole ass too. Like, was that a mistake? But we forget easily because the media shoves down your throat what they want you to see.
Right. That's true.
That's why I love YouTube, because you can fish out the actual truth.
Yeah, you can. Now with Justin Bieber being on those tapes as well, from your perspective, why do you think he's being so mute on talking about Diddy at all?
I mean, everyone is, right? The people who have spoken out about him really, I don't think, have any affiliation and want to use his name for fame. I think there's many B and D list actors have kind of spoken out, but I think because there is video of Justin Bieber in compromised positions, it makes it very terrifying. And then we don't know who else is working with the government, right? We don't know who has been told to be silent to help other cases to push evidence forward. So we've either got somebody who's not involved, and it's unfortunate there's video, maybe before the offs began, or somebody who was groomed and seriously harmed, or somebody who is helping the government work through this massive case.
Timelines. How long do you think it would take for these other celebrities to spotlight on them? Because I know a lot of people are saying, "Oh, we all know Diddy, but who's the other people? Let's get them arrested as well." What timeline do you think that would take?
I mean, was it Donald Trump Jr. who said he was going to unseal the names by February, I think? I don't know. I don't know what kind of BS is kind of running through there with who has the authority to do it, but if the case is scheduled for May and we don't see further charges, then I think the pressure is on, right? I would assume the case is going to be continued, and we're looking into 2026, 2027, and the trial's just going to keep getting pushed out because they've got to sort out new charges. And then he's going to probably be shuffled around to different states where he's being accused of different things. But again, it comes with the pressure. People pay me to be an expert until the day I step foot at the stairs of the courthouse. And then they say, nah, we're not going to do it. We're going to settle. So, I mean, we are looking at people hiding up until the very last second that they can't anymore.
Do you believe all those CEOs stepping down from their positions, did it have anything to do with Diddy, or do you think that's from something else?
It probably has something to do, but not so directly connected as we'd like it to be. Right? It's like there's a lot of bad things happening in the industry and with these companies, and to save face of the company, they're going to clean shop before anyone really notices. So when this does come to trial and we learn more about these people, we're going to look at these companies and they're going to look a lot cleaner than they did last year. So again, it's very, very strategic. It doesn't tell us who's guilty, but it does allow the image we see in 2025 to be different than it would have been had all these people still been in place.
So we're going to wake up at some point in 2025 and just be shocked looking at our phone at all these major celebrities that are going to be taken down?
Yeah, I mean, I would say much more than celebrities. I would say politicians, judges, lawyers, but maybe not all at once, right? So the government's going to pin people against each other. They're going to leverage relationships, and we may never know some of the real bad actors because they have so much power to take down so many others. But we will know more. It's going to be a titillating experience for the world and also utterly horrifying because of just how much such a dangerous person and these people in power can get away with for so long, and the individuals that they torment and hurt. And I don't think all the individuals coming forward are honest, or I don't think they're all truthful throughout the entirety of their stories. I think that some elements are true, but I think a lot of people coming forward have some very severe mental illness. And it's hard to tell because we're not in any kind of forensic setting to test them or anything. But everyone's got some kind of push to come forward. Is it really justice, or is it something more? Is it really truth, or is it fabricated? There's so much out there that anyone can tell the story right now.
So many victims out there. How does the court go through and actually vet these victims to ensure that they are being honest?
Well, the lawyers will, right? So the lawyers have tons and tons of team members and a lot of money. So they're going to be looking at, the private investigator lens. They're going to be looking at financial statements, digging into social media, which is why I think a lot of celebrities have wiped their social medias. They're going to be looking into relationships, phone records. So they're going to pull anything and everything that they can.
От интервюто с криминалния психолог Лесли Добсън разбрахме, че Диди има психопатски наклонности, не чувства угризения или вина за действията си, агресивен и отмъстителен е и е опасно да бъде пускан под домашен арест. Трябва да вметнем, че съдът за трети път му отказа пускане под домашен арест, въпреки неговите опити да получи такъв. Надяваме се Диди да не бъде пускан на свобода и да остане зад решетките до май месец 2025 година, когато ще започнат делата срещу него и ще се разбере каква ще е присъдата му. Лесли Добсън потвърди, че има запис на Пи Диди и Джъстин Бийбър, в който двамата извършват сексуални действия. Говори се, че Джъстин Бийбър е бил непълнолетен по време на записа. Може би фактът, че е бил насилен, обяснява неговите избухвания и проблемни действия като по-млад, както и употребата му на наркотици. Джъстин Бийбър може би изпитва трудност да забрави случилото се и иска да притъпи болката. Надяваме се, че в момента работи с федералните и им съдейства с информация, за да помогне за вкарването на Пи Диди в затвора до живот. Ако това видео ви е харесало, натиснете палец нагоре. Ще продължаваме да следим случая и да ви информираме за всичко ново. Epic Stories ви предоставя актуална и автентична информация, която масовите медии не споделят. Ако искате да гледате още такива интересни видеа по актуални теми, се абонирайте за канала ни, като натиснете бутона Subscribe. Желаем ви успешен и приятен ден!